Okay, so here we are again with something I find significant, and so I'm going to share it to you in a teaching. Then they asked him, the Lord? Where, Lord? He said to them, wherever the dead body is, there will the vultures or eagles be gathered together. So when Jesus said that, to me, this really struck me like, what in the world? I understand vultures, like whenever you see vultures, you know there's like a dead body nearby. So what about this, about eagles? Because you always understand that eagle, you didn't understand, like that doesn't make sense. Well, how I'm going to share it to you in this, because in procedural law, investigation and evidence is important in justice. Procedural law, understanding procedural law of investigation evidence is important in justice. Luke 37, where the dead body is, the vultures would be a violation, and the eagle's justice will also be. So it's almost like some symbolic, like the vultures are there to consume the dead body. The eagles are there as well. But it's kind of like it says that gathered. So it means that there's going to be more than one. And it says or, meaning it's either going to be the vultures or it's going to be the eagle. So it's like almost either or, which then you say to yourself, what does that mean? And so let me go a little further. Procedural law, understanding procedural law. Over here. Procedural law in comparison of reasonable person understanding. This is what a parable is. Parable for evidence and investigation proves the violation. You need evidence to prove a violation. Okay? So evidence is needed for... I skipped. Procedural law in comparison the person's understanding. This is what a parable is. So the parable is no body, no crime. This is something you hear all the time. No body, no crime. So like in all the movies or everything, basically what they're saying is no evidence. You have no exculpatory evidence to disprove a violation. No inculpatory evidence, which these are legal terms in law, which proves a violation. Evidence is needed in justice to prove a violation or disprove a violation. So I want to take a moment because this really reached out to me like, okay, vultures, eagles, gathering, or either or. So basically what it's saying is, of course, like if you have a gathering of good people that want justice, they gather together to push the justice. And then if you have a gathering of bad people, and sometimes we know that people, when they protest, you have different sides. But then there's times that the environment, if you have too many of one, the bad people will go away. Like wait, there's too many justice around here. We're going to get arrested. We're going to get blah, blah, blah. Or there's too many bad people. I mean, there's definitely times that justice cannot go into certain environments because there's too many negative people in the environment, and if they go in, there'll be more violence, more problems. And so the best thing to do is not go into those environments. So in a gathering, you literally can have pushed out justice, or you can push, if you have justice, enough justice, you can push out evil or negativity. Because you'll say, well, not everything's evil. Well, truthfully, if you own a store and somebody comes in and robs you, you need justice. You need that person to be held accountable, and everybody to know that if you come into my store, you're going to be held accountable. And that would be justice, because you can't go into something. How can you have a business if everything people steal from you? You can't. So even people that are evil, if they own a store, they're going to try to keep people from robbing them because they can't make money. And yes, there's all these, affirmative defense is what they call, where but the point is, because we can watch less miserables, and there's like things that happen because of reasons, but ultimately, you take a person that believes in robbing a store and justifies it, and you take a person that owns a store, and you put the person that justifies it, when they own a store, they realize, hey, wait a minute, I'm losing money, I can't feed my family, I can't keep the business going, I can't pay the insurance, this is the cost, I can't, so then they what they once believed was something they like to do, when they're in a position, they won't do it because this isn't justice. So then you have the people that preserve the justice. And if those people that are in positions of power and privilege, their philosophies, their beliefs, they can cause a person that owns a store to have it shut down because they're not going to protect them. The person's going to get robbed, and then this person's under a lot of duress, and there's a mental health factor that, even though they're right, but there's a mental health factor when you go to do justice and justice is not done, and you're losing your business because you're doing all the right thing, but the individuals that are in position of power and privilege, which it goes all the way down to the person that comes and do the investigation, up to the Supreme Court, who finalized, was everything done correctly, the investigation, was the evidence, blah, blah, blah. This person can go through, if things aren't done correctly, and then they're having all this stuff going on, but it all bases down to this: investigation and evidence. No evidence, no crime. All the evidence, crime. And then what does the power and privilege do with it? Do they do their jobs? Do they further the violation because they have in their minds some belief that goes against? Nobody can have a business if they cannot sell things and reap a profit. It goes into the negatives. You can't keep the lights on if you're in negatives. And so, with all this being understood, there's a factor of the parable, the comparison, the understanding of what is going on, who's involved. So this very small, where the dead body is, the vultures would be, and the eagles. So the vultures are going to continue a violation, harm. They're going to do everything. And they understand who's involved and how they can get away with it. The eagles, justice, will take it, explain what evidence is, explain what the investigation is, explain the violation, so the person, whether they are the defense or the victim, they will know how to gather the evidence, how to prove the evidence, and how to disprove the violation. Inculpatory evidence proves the violation, or exculpatory disproves violation. And then there's all this stuff, but it has to be but that's what Jesus is saying. Jesus is like, okay, guys, you Pharisees, or okay, guys, you guys are really pushing this justice, you're doing it right. Ultimately, there's right and wrong. And people that want the wrong are going to try to make it that the environment is wrong. And then there's people that want right. But here's the thing. There is right and wrong. Just like the store. Everybody understands if you have a store, people come to buy things. You can't keep it in business if all people do is rob them and they get away with it. There has to be a way to correctly run a business, whether you're a Satan worshiper or the holy person walking around. Everybody has a right to start a business and to succeed. And this would be a violation of civil rights. And so Jesus is like, hey, and it's deep. I mean, I guess I'm applying my own life to this. So, but the point is, in everything in your life, it's all about evidence. It's all about evidence. It's all about proving, yes, I did, no, I didn't. And then in the gray areas, a person looking at something can accuse you of something, and if there's no proof, they can keep on saying, well, that person is this way. You'll see it on the news. Somebody will post something, and they'll put a crime next to them. Some crimes, if you're accused of, it automatically you're guilty, because in people's heart, it just touches them a certain way. That's mental health. It touches them in such a serious way that a lot of people this person being accused of this, they don't even need evidence. And most of the time, you don't see any evidence. You just hear it. And the point is, if you're being victimized in a way that you're being harmed, and this is a mental health thing where you're being devastated as well, having evidence only protects you and proves or disproves. And that's where justice is. The ability to gather evidence throughout your life, as silly as it may be, to prove or disprove. And if you prove it, then you have the challenge of going through the justice system and for them to do the right thing. Are they vultures? Are they eagles? And eagles they may not agree with, you have people that literally, they don't agree with it, but they do the right thing. Because they know if they do the wrong thing, one day they're going to sit in this seat, and the vultures are going to either help them or hurt them, whether they're the person that committed a violation or is being brought forward as a defendant or offender, or they're a victim. So everybody wants justice when they're harmed. And I would think everybody wants justice if they're harmed. Or they wouldn't be complaining. They'd just okay, well, that's gone. So what? So if you're fighting for justice, you want no harm. You want it to be done right. So you may have thought, you'll hear people say, well, I thought this way until this happened to me. Well, it doesn't change, it changed because now it's become real to them. But if you are a defender and you didn't commit the crime, you want to prove that you didn't do it. But there's also the vultures. The vultures, they want to get away with crime, only when it pertains to who they don't like. It's but you can't have both, because one day the vultures, who are gathered in more than one, that they turn on you, and then you're saying justice. Well, okay, but you're the reason that you're in this position because you've been standing with violation and harm to people and letting people get away with it. It can't be both. Either you're for justice and you provide the evidence, inculpatory, and you teach people how to do investigation, how to do exculpatory evidence, how to do inculpatory evidence, and justice-wise. So when it happens, you gather it, you present it, you prove it or disprove the violation. And you can live life, because ultimately that's where it's at, evidence. And nobody, like a lot of people, like the majority of people, don't spend their lives collecting evidence. That's important. So I want to take a moment, which, let me see here, 15 minutes is not a moment. I want to take, this is important, because in life we hear no justice, no peace. No justice, what is justice? And it really is, it goes back to doing a proper investigation. The person is gathering evidence as they're going in life to exculpatory or inculpatory, to prove or disprove. And when they go in, when the vultures or the eagles come, they have this. And then, you know, and then in this, the vultures, sometimes they can't let go of justice. So as long as you, like a lot of times, but there is environments, and I'm talking legal systems, where throughout time they have learned that this conduct, they can, even though the evidence is there, that they can just keep on moving. You don't have the money to keep on doing appeals. You don't have the true understanding of the judicial system to keep on going to the Supreme Court. And so, but if you have no evidence to do either exculpatory or inculpatory, or the both, because you'll find that a victim can become an offender through the process. So as they're moving forward, and then if you don't have the understanding that a prosecutor, first of all, isn't the true tribunal who makes the decision making. That's the judge in the Supreme Court. The prosecutor only presents and makes sure that the investigation is done justice. If it's done prosecutory malicious, which is evil, that's the vultures. And so, but people, and then the victim doesn't understand. They're sitting with the prosecutor thinking that's their attorney, but it really isn't. They're supposed to be non-biased, get the evidence, and to present it to the true investigator, which is the judge. And I'm talking judicial, the judge, and which ultimately gets up the chain of command to the Supreme Court. So we have somewhat of an understanding through education, everything, all this. But so when Jesus is speaking, it's very deep, and it ends up that he's saying, who's the basic the top dogs in the environment, and what are they doing? Are they vultures? Are they eagles? And is there a body? Is there no body? Is there evidence? Is there no evidence? No matter what, in a true justice, even with vultures, no evidence, no crime. No evidence, no proof that there was no crime. So, all right, so that's it.